Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski with the latest local news, including the rescue of a fisherman in Fairfield. We also have front page previews for you later in the show. Frank Noodle will have your forecast and a Nutmeg sports update, and Donald Eng joins us later to take a look back on this day in history. But first, Fairfield Fire Department rescued a fisherman this morning that had been trapped overnight at the Penfield Lighthouse. Around 7:40 this morning, the Fairfield Fire Department responded to a report of a person in distress on the Penfield Lighthouse. Fairfield firefighters launched 2 marine vessels and located that fisherman who swam to the lighthouse and was trapped there overnight. Now, the victim was removed and treated for exposure, and upon investigation, it was determined that a second individual had been fishing last night with that victim. A search was initiated with police, fire, and the U.S. Coast Guard until that second fisherman was located safe and on shore. And in other news, the Weston Police Department is investigating an untimely death that occurred on Wednesday at approximately 7:30 in the morning in Bisceglie-Scribner Park in Weston. Police say at this point it's too early in the investigation to give a manner of death, and that the body was taken to the office of the Chief Medical Examiner, where an autopsy will be performed at a later date. At this time, the Weston Police Department is not releasing the name of that deceased victim until next of kin notifications are completed. Police say there's no evidence to suggest that there's any threat of harm or danger to the public. And the Greenwich Time reports that Greenwich police arrested a high school student they say was responsible for writing a threatening message in a bathroom that led to a lockdown 6 months ago at Greenwich High School. Now, the student, whose name was not released, was charged on Monday with first-degree threatening, a felony, and second-degree breach of peace, a misdemeanor. Now, the threatening message was discovered in a bathroom stall on March 29th, and some 3,000 people were detained in the high school building. Some 40 police officers hand-searched students and backpacks for weapons at that time. An investigation by the department's Special Victims Section developed a suspect, and the application was made for a juvenile arrest warrant. After a judge signed that warrant, the suspect was arrested earlier this week. Police did not say if it's a male or female student that was arrested. And in other news, 2 women are wanted by Milford police for allegedly stealing money from a cashier at the Milford movie theater. Police said that on September 23rd, around 8:30 at night, they responded to Cinemark Movie Theater, which is in the Connecticut Post Mall, on the report of a theft of money. Well, they were told that 2 women entered the movie theater and asked the cashier to make change for large bills. During the transaction, the suspects asked the employee to make further change and did things to distract him. Now, while counting the cash drawer, the employee noticed the missing money, viewed the video footage along with Milford Police Sergeant Jim O'Keefe, and saw the women concealing the money as they continued to distract that employee. Police are asking anyone who has information that could help identify the suspects. They can contact the Milford Police Department at 203-878-6551. And a Bridgeport man was arrested Thursday and charged with murder as a result of a cold case investigation into gang-related violence in Norwalk. Hearst Connecticut Media reports that 22-year-old Hakeem Atkinson of Bradley Street in Bridgeport was charged with murder in the unrelated slayings of Joseph Jabs Bateman, who was fatally shot behind the Avalon Gates housing complex on Belden Avenue in Norwalk back on February 3rd, 2012. Now, according to the arrest warrant affidavit, Atkinson was 16 years old when Bateman, who was 20, was shot to death in a crime related to street gang activity in Norwalk. Now, it was the second cold case murder arrest in Norwalk this week. On Tuesday, Norwalk police arrested Ibu Boone, 30 years old of Waterbury, in the slaying of Michael Mizzy Robinson Jr. in the area of South Main and Grove Streets. This happened back on October 29th, 2010. And in other news, in New Canaan, Grove Street between Pine Street and Richmond Hill Road is open only to emergency and school transportation vehicles today, so that the installation of a sidewalk by the Town Public Works Department can be completed. Now, Director Tiger Mann said road closures will be intermittent with the project while the project is underway. This new portion of a sidewalk completes a continuous off-road walkway from Mead Park to Irwin Park. You can get more details at ncadvertiser.com. Going to take a turn now, throw it over to Frank Granito for a look at the forecast. Frank.
Thank you, Kate. And we're getting a look at some fall weather now, finally. Partly sunny out today and very breezy. We're going to see wind gusts around 25 miles per hour. Much more comfortable out as temperatures are in the mid to high 70s and far less humidity compared to the first half of the week. Clear skies and chilly overnight, temperatures falling all the way down into the mid 40s. Mostly sunny and absolutely perfect out tomorrow. It will definitely be our first true taste of the fall season. An expected high of only 68 during the afternoon, a light breeze of about 10 miles per hour, partly cloudy skies overnight. We could see a couple scattered showers tomorrow night that will carry into Saturday morning. Cooler conditions again on Saturday, temperatures in the mid to high 60s. There'll be a light breeze throughout the afternoon along with some variable cloudiness, a potential for another couple of scattered showers in the early afternoon, but it'll be mostly clear overnight on Saturday, a low of 48 as we head into Sunday. That's going to do it for this weather update. Let's go back over to Kate.
All right, thanks so much, Frank. We're going to step out for a break, and when we come back, Donald Eng joins us to take a look back on this day in history. Frank has your Nutmeg Sports Update, and there's more local news after this. Today's coffee break is brought to you by AFC Urgent Care. Incredible walk-in healthcare around the corner with locations in Bridgeport, Fairfield, and Shelton. AFC provides urgent treatments for injuries and illnesses, offering a convenient, lower-cost alternative to visiting and waiting in a hospital emergency room. AFC's board-certified team of healthcare providers are ready to help, offering on-site digital x-ray services, lab work, occupational health services, and vaccinations and physicals. AFC accepts most major insurance plans. Find AFC in Bridgeport at 161 Boston Avenue and 4200 Main Street, in Fairfield at 1918 Black Rock Turnpike, and in Shelton at 389 Bridgeport Avenue.
Had a sports injury or slip and fall that needs immediate care? Coastal Orthopedics Walk-In Urgent Care gives you direct access to orthopedic specialists fast without an appointment. Biking, golf, tennis, soccer, whatever the sports injury is, sprain or fracture, Coastal Orthopedics Walk-In Urgent Care can help. Open 7 days a week now at 3 locations. The iPark Building at 761 Main Avenue, Norwalk, 36 Old Kings Highway South in Darien, or in the Westport Medical Center at 323 Riverside Avenue, Westport. Go to coastalorthoct.com. Like them on Facebook.
At the office of Dr. David Oshiro of Darien, we provide high-quality and personalized orthodontic treatment in a professional and caring environment. We make treatment fun for our young patients and believe it's never too late to have a healthy and beautiful smile. Call now for an appointment and find out more at droshiro.com.
The leaves are changing, water temps dropping, and the sun is setting a little earlier each day. But there's still a lot of great boating, fishing, and coast time left before we see the first snow. And above all, remember, it's always summer at the Dock Shop. With loads of new fishing tackle and accessories, clothing, jewelry, and home decor, the Dock Shop is just what you need when you start to feel that New England autumn chill. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, dockshop.com.
I'm Tracy Masella, a licensed clinical social worker at Silver Hill Hospital in New Canaan. Join me each month as we talk with experts on the front lines of the treatment of mental health and addiction. Straight Talk with Tracy, a Silver Hill Hospital production, airs at 12 p.m. on the second Thursday of each month here on the HAN network.
Welcome back to this September 28th edition of your Coffee Break on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski, and it's time to take a look back on this day in history with Donald Eng. Don.
Well, Kate, we got a couple of great moments in sports history today that involve the same guy. First, though, we go to 1066 when William the Conqueror invades England, beginning the Norman conquest. Now, the influence of the Normans on England was profound and still with us, particularly when it comes to the English language. For example, have you ever wondered why we have a word for an animal, but the meat from that animal is something else? Like, for example, why is a pig meat called pork? Why is cow meat called beef? And why are chicken and fish called simply chicken and fish? Well, the answer is the Normans. After the conquest, the Norman language, which is sort of a rudimentary French, became the language of the elite, and while the Anglo-Saxon peasants who raised the animals might call them one thing, the Norman cooks who prepared the resulting meat called it something else. The French won. That when it comes to cuisine, they almost always do. 1779, Samuel Huntington of Connecticut is named President of the Continental Congress. Now, the Articles of Confederation were passed during his term, so he has a legitimate claim to being the first real president of the country. Huntington is also a Declaration of Independence signer, and he would go on to serve 10 terms as governor of Connecticut. During one of those terms, the newly formed town of Huntington, where I'm standing right now, was named after him. In the late 19th century, though, that town was renamed after mill owner Edward Shelton, making it the only community in state history to change its name from the name of one man to another man. 1889. The first General Conference on Weights and Measures etches 2 lines on a bar of a platinum iridium alloy and defines that distance as a meter, measured at the melting point of ice, which is the same as the freezing point of water. I know that makes no sense, but it's true, trust me. Currently, by the way, the official definition of a meter is, are you ready? The distance that light travels in a vacuum in 1/299,792,458th of a second, so you can go home and measure your meter stick if you want. Finally, now we go to 1941 for this.
I went into the last day of the season 399.6, and you know, I've always been given a lot of credit for playing that last day. Well, I didn't even give it a thought that I wouldn't play, and just so happened the first game, the first time up, I got a hit, and I got 3 for 4, and I was well over 400, and I played the second game and got 3 for 4 again. Just meant
Ted Williams declining to sit out the last game of the season and becoming the last major league player to hit over 400. Now, 19 years later, Williams would homer in his final official at-bat, and then for the Red Sox, and then sit out the last 3 games of the season. Also, believe it or not, homering in your final career at-bat is not that rare. 51 former major league players have done it, including Ray Langford and Todd Zeile on the same day in 2004. That is your look back in history for today, September 28th, and I'm Donald Ng.
All right, thanks so much, Don, and we'll see you a little bit later in the show when we do front page previews.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, in other local news, Stratford candidate Joe Paul said Wednesday afternoon that he's leaving the mayoral race. Paul said he made the decision to end his campaign on Monday, but made the decision public on Wednesday morning. Now, Paul told the Stratford Star that he felt it would be in the best interest of Stratford Democrats to step aside. Paul said, in part, we looked at the results from the primary and felt that Stephanie Phillips and I would get the same number of votes, and that was not enough for us to win, and it would hand the election to the Republicans. Paul said Phillips, the Democratic nominee for mayor, would have a better chance of winning in November if she receives votes that would have gone to him. Now, Paul said he's devoting his energy to help all Democrats get elected in November. More on that story at StratfordStar.com. All right, let's throw it back over to Frank Granito for a Nutmeg Sports Update. Frank.
Thank you, Kate. We were live last night at Brian McMahon's Jack Casagrande Field for boys soccer on the HAN Network. The Danbury Hatters and the Brian McMahon Senators playing to a 0-0 draw in that FCI contest. Really, the play was highlighted by both goaltenders, David Mullen-Thiel and Roberto Santiago IV, dominating play for both sides. A big point for the Senators as they stay in contention in the FCI race, and Danbury moving up another point in the standings. They find themselves in top 8 of the FCI picture now. Looking at some of the other boys' soccer scores from around the conference yesterday, Staples gave Norwalk their first loss of the season. Timmy Lyles scored in the 5th minute of that one. It was the game's only goal in a 1-0 Wreckers win. Greenwich defeated Stanford 2-1. Ridgefield on top of Central 2-1. Ludlow shuts out Trinity Catholic 4-0. Ward and New Canaan play to a 3-3 draw. Wilton 3, Darien 0, and West Hill and St. Joe's tie 1-1. We'll have highlights of last night's game later on this afternoon on a special Nutmeg Sports at 3:30 as our pregame show gets you ready for an FCI Championship rematch in girls volleyball. Brian McMahon traveling to Stanford High. First serve is at 4 p.m. and can be seen right here on the HAN Network. That'll do it for this Nutmeg Sports Update. Let's go back over to Kate.
All right, thanks so much, Frank. Well, in Shelton, despite incumbent Mark Loretti not having an opponent for the first time in his 26 years as mayor of Shelton, he said it's as important as ever for residents to get out and vote. Now, the Shelton Republican said he has no way of knowing whether the lack of an opponent on the top line of the ballot will affect overall voter turnout, but he plans to do his part in making sure people do visit the polls. Now, Mark Wadomski, a Republican candidate who earned a top spot for the ballot on the Planning and Zoning Commission after after he collected more than 400 signatures from residents on a petition, said he does expect a lower total turnout in this year's election, but doesn't anticipate any impact on his race. Now, there are 3 candidates for the Planning and Zoning on the Republican side. In addition to Adamski, Chairman Ruth Parkins and Commissioner Tony Pagoda are running for re-election. On the Democratic side, incumbent Jimmy Tickey is running for re-election, and Lud Spinelli is running in hopes of helping his party cause a 3-3 split on that commission. Now, the commission currently consists of 4 Republican members and 2 Democrats. Loretti also said he supports most Republican candidates on the ticket for the 2017 municipal elections and plans to expose the ones he doesn't support. But for more details on that, you can check SheltonHerald.com. And in other news, with a unanimous vote after a full year of work, the New Canaan Planning and Zoning Commission granted a new special permit for Grace Farms Foundation to operate as a religious institution, a philanthropic institution, and a club organization on its 80-acre Luke's Wood Road property. Now, the vote approving Grace Farms' application was made Tuesday and carried with it an unusually large number of 100 conditions on the nonprofit organization's activities. Now, back in May of 2016, neighbors of Grace Farms complained to the town that the activities taking place on the property went beyond what Grace Farms was allowed to do under its permit as a religious institution. Grace Farms disagreed, saying that its activities were consistent with the activities of other institutions, even if they were not explicitly spelled out in a special permit. Nevertheless, the foundation decided to apply for an amended special permit and acknowledged its variety of activities and permitted it to operate with the multiple primary uses of a religious institution and a philanthropic organization. While being permitted to operate in part as a non-religious entity eliminates a barrier that prohibits some outside organizations from working with Grace Farms. There's more on that story at ncadvertiser.com. And finally, sports met advocacy as members of the Weston High School girls soccer team traveled to New York City last week to compete against teams from around the world in the Global Goals World Cup. Now, the Global Goals World Cup, a 5-a-side street soccer tournament, took place during the United Nations General Assembly as world leaders come together in New York. Now, the players from Weston represented Fairfield-based Save the Children in the tournament, which included 24 teams of women from 5 continents. More on that at thewestonforum.com. Well, we're going to step out for a break, and when we come back, Donald Eng joins me, and we're going to preview our front pages this week after this.
At Pamby Motors, we're not worried about being the biggest dealership. We're focused on being the best. We're dedicated to giving you the best experience we can. The Pamby Motors team is here to help you choose the right Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, or Ram in a friendly, pressure-free environment. And right now, during the summer clearance event, you'll find some of our best prices too. Like this lease on a 2017 Ram Quad Cab Express for $149 a month. Visit Pamby Motors, Route 7 in Richfield, PambyZone.com.
CT City Lacrosse is dedicated to the growth of lacrosse for youth and high school players. Directed by Stanford High head coach Mike Nazaro, we help players reach full potential on and off the field. With an indoor facility in Stanford, we offer year-round training, camps, clinics, and private instruction. Visit ctcitylax.com for more.
At Budget Blinds, we're in business to frame the light, the day, and the night. So we give you an exclusive combination of high style, expert service, our no surprises pricing, and our no questions asked warranty. We believe that everyone, at every budget, deserves style and service. Isn't that a beautiful place to be?
New Canaan Foreign Car. Yes, New Canaan Foreign Car has been servicing all makes of foreign cars for over 50 years. We also buy, sell, and consign cars too. We can help you with all your automotive needs from service to sales. Call us at 203-966-2681.
Welcome back to this Thursday edition of your Coffee Break on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski, and I'm joined this week by Donald Ang, who obviously gives us our look back on this day in history, also our Trumbull Times editor, and he's going to join me to preview our front pages.
Yes, we're looking back on this week in history, like this most recent week, what's going on.
What are you starting with?
I'm starting with Wilton, where we have a very interesting story. The community expresses solidarity with the Hindu Mandir. That's a Hindu temple in Wilton that has been the subject of vandalism a couple times, and they've now invited the community in to come into the temple, and the community did respond, and it was a very nice moment that was brought about by a very sad moment, but certainly some solidarity there with the community there in Wilton. And also we have the Truman MacArthur controversy there. Just a best-selling author, H.W. Brands, will discuss his latest novel, The General versus the President. That's the MacArthur-Truman controversy in the Korean War. It was a very important part of American history.
All right, well, I'm taking a look at the Darien Times first, and obviously some big news is the first selectman race there. You have incumbent Jamie Stevenson, who is a Republican, running once again. The Democrats have put forward Rob Richards, and there's also a petitioning Democratic candidate, Chris No. So some profiles on them this week. Also, a special event coming up to raise money. Hackers for Hope continues to build a legacy in memory of a local resident there. Also, the Board of Ed approving making FOI request log public, residents reacting to drafts of the Parks Master Plan and the Ox Ridge proposal, and of course, a nice photo of the team that participated in the Tunnels to Towers event.
Well, I have the Easton Courier here, and a very big story, even through the region, was the Speaking of Women luncheon. In this case, it featured Lara Logan, a journalist who was violently assaulted while in Egypt while covering the Arab Spring. She had a lot of really interesting things to say. She related her experience, and she says, what I like is that she will not let her attackers take anything else from her life. That was a very big story in Easton. Also, speaking of big story, challenges in the courts there. That Saddle Ridge development of an ongoing saga. It always is when you have these affordable housing projects. That also very big news in Easton this week.
All right, taking a look at the Weston Forum this week, Eversource offering some explanations on why a July storm, it took so long to get power back after that, and they're offering some storm tips there. Also a profile on Weston's new police chief, Edwin Hennian. Route 7 bridge will close again this weekend, so something to look out for if you're in that area, closing down for some construction. And a Kindness Rocks project that's advocating for anti-bullying in Weston.
Well, I have the Monroe Courier here, and the first thing you see also is Lara Logan again on the front page. The Center for Family is very big in the region. About a dozen local offices in a lot of these communities, but also some West Nile mosquitoes now have been caught in Monroe. They've been tested positive. That's also this time of year you see that a lot. And finally, the Monroe Town Council has called on Daniel Malloy to sign the Republican-led budget that he has sworn to veto. As of yet, he has not taken any action on it, so we'll certainly keep our eyes on that.
All right, well, taking a look at the Milford Mirror this week, big story we talked about, and that's that Milford Alderman Brian Anderson, a Democrat, wants to challenge longtime incumbent Rosa DeLaura for her seat in Congress. More on that story. Also, a vote on a development, the Grillo vote, expected next month. That plan calls for 342 apartments on West Avenue, and some nice scenic Milford moments, some photos, some lovely photos of the downtown area, and Pie in the Face benefits hurricane victims. Very cool fundraiser there.
In New Canaan, the Planning and Zoning Commission has okayed multi-use permits for Grace Farms, a story you just heard here on Coffee Break. That obviously, they had expanded their definition of what was considered a religious organization there, and we now have Luke's Wood Road property, about 80 acres there, potentially for a little bit of mixed use. Also, we have the annual softball game between the New Canaan Police and the Darien Police. You see a couple of great action photos there. And the Community Foundation, once again, celebrating 40 years of aiding local nonprofits in New Canaan.
All right, taking a look at the Reading pilot, honoring a longtime resident who passed away August 31st and all of his contributions to the community there. Also a great photo by Brian Hayfley at the Pudd'nhead event. Now that honored Seth Meyers, actually. It was presented with a giant spoon at Saturday night's gala. It's meant to signify pudding from Mark Twain's book, Pudd'nhead Wilson. Now also a story on why middle school matters so much, and this is in regards to whether they should close the middle schools there and send the kids to the elementary schools and expand those there. Story on that. And a Reading church gearing up for its 36th annual fair.
Well, I have the Ridgefield Press here, and we have the Superintendent of Schools, Karen Baldwin, has imposed a spending freeze on the budget that, due to a projected $1 million deficit from special education statements and late teacher hires, a lot of this spending is contractual, and it's very difficult for superintendents to control. We also have, I thought, this great photo here by Scott Mullen, and I love the caption, "Oh my gourd," as River Ketterer there, decorating her pumpkin there at Ballard Park. And finally, the school board is cutting the start time options. That's been an ongoing story in Ridgefield, is what time should these schools start? You know, with the buses and stuff, some of these kids are going to school very early, and that's always a subject of real interest to parents.
All right, well, taking a look at the Shelton Herald, a story that I couldn't believe how often this story was actually shared on social media this week, and that was a man was arrested for reclaiming a bag from police that contained cocaine. He actually went to the police station to reclaim the bag, and that's when he was arrested because police were aware that there were drugs inside of it. Yeah, that was a big story.
I'm here for my cocaine bag.
Yeah. And also a story this week, a disturbed sleeper shoots landscapers with pellets from a BB gun. And a happier story, and that's Jones Farms obviously opening for pumpkin season. It's just such a beautiful area over there in the White Hills section of Shelton. Definitely worth checking out. Loretti, his gubernatorial campaign has raised more than $200,000. And a story we just spoke about, he has no challenger in the race for mayor. So we'll see what happens in November.
I have the Stratford Star here, and Town Councilman Scott Farrington Posner has announced that he will end his campaign to hold on to his seat there on the town council, with a great photo of him there. And also, we have another thing, a developer has withdrawn an affordable housing application that would have gone onto James Farm Road. If you're familiar with that area, that's this area up by Flood Middle School. That very large development has now been withdrawn. And also the field house at Bunnell, they're looking into a naming committee. That committee has just formed, and we're going to see what exactly that new thing is going to be called.
All right, well, taking a look at the Trumbull Times-Sun, your paper this week, volunteer firefighters responding to a car fire on White Plains Road last Friday. Photo from the scene. Also, Herbst billing Democrats for what he called a political stunt. What was that exactly?
Well, that was a group of citizens were petitioning to return the town to 7 districts from the 4 districts where they are now. They were denied by the town council. They brought a legal challenge against the town. That challenge was denied, and then Herbst sent a legal bill to the town Democrats, even though they had not filed the suit. They had said they voiced support for it, and Tim Herbst has then sent them a bill because they committed a political stunt.
All right, well, you know what? I think we need to talk about that on C2 Polls coming up. Tesoro vows to tackle opioid addiction. She's a candidate for First Selectman, talking more about her plan to tackle that issue in the community. And petitioning candidate Michael Redgate, can he shake up the race? He's banking on voters being tired of partisanship.
Okay, and finally now I have the Arts and Leisure section, which has a review of the 2018 Chevy Equinox, if you're in the market for a new car. And also, the Regina Quick Center, that's at Fairfield University, is queuing up bigger and bolder acts for their upcoming season. So more entertainment and cultural options possibly coming to Fairfield County. That's always good news.
All right, very cool. Well, thanks so much, John, for joining me.
Anytime, Kate.
All right, we are going to wrap things up here. As Frank said earlier, 3:30, a special Nutmeg Sports. 4 o'clock, volleyball coming up, right? Am I right, guys? Say yes? Yes.
Yes.
And no Yankee Fisherman today, because the Yankee Fisherman is off. Of course, you can catch some of his shows on demand. We're going to wrap things up here. We'll see you Monday for your coffee break at 11. Have a great day.